80% of murders are committed by people from the victim's immediate circle. Criminologists repeat this figure like a mantra. But when it comes to wealthy families with an impeccable reputation, the investigation can drag on for years. Especially if the perpetrator isn't hiding somewhere in the shadows of the criminal underworld, but is sitting at the same table as the victims during family dinners, smiles, passes the salt, asks how things are. Summer of 2021. 70-year-old Gary Spohr and his 68-year-old wife Wendy Wood were enjoying life in their own mansion on the shore of Lake Tahoe in California, a property worth $3.5 million. 45 years of married life behind them. Their two adult daughters, Adrian and Aaron, had long since started their own families, but the generational bond remained strong. The parents adored seeing their grandchildren. Every meeting was an event. The house was always full of voices, children's laughter, the smell of fresh baked goods. The couple met in college. They had been together ever since. Besides raising their children, they ran a joint real estate business. They traveled extensively: Europe, Asia, the islands. For a time, they lived in Hong Kong, watching the city change before their eyes. In 2000, they settled in California. Wendy grew up nearby. She had always dreamed of a house on the shore of Lake Tahoe. The dream came true. They had lived in this mansion for about 20 years. In the morning, coffee on the terrace overlooking the water. In the evening, strolls along the shore. Sunsets over the mountains. Everything was in its place. June 5th, 2021. An ordinary Saturday. Wendy's younger daughter, Erin, arrives with her two sons. They spend the whole day together. Grandma prepares the grandchildren's favorite dishes. The boys run around the house, play by the lake. Grandpa shows them how to properly cast a fishing rod. Closer to 8 in the evening, more precisely at 7:35 p.m., the visitor picks up the children and leaves. The car drives away from the house. Dust settles on the gravel driveway. Silence. Gary and Wendy are left alone. They go upstairs to the second floor. They turn on the TV, their usual evening ritual before bed. Both were tired from the day, but it was a pleasant tiredness. The day went well. They had no idea that their marital idol would soon be shattered, that everything would change in a matter of minutes, that someone had been hiding downstairs for several hours, waiting, listening to their every step. Around 8:30 in the evening, the 911 dispatch service registers a call. The operator picks up the receiver. Hears strange sounds. The caller cannot speak. Only gurgling wheezes are heard on the line, wet, intermittent, like the agony of a person trying to breathe through blood. The dispatcher tenses up. He had heard many things during his years of work, but these sounds were special. They left no room for interpretation. The dispatcher immediately sends a medical team and a police unit to the address. The call recording lasts only a few seconds. Then, silence. The line doesn't disconnect, just silence. Somewhere on the line, Quiet breathing can be heard. Then, even that disappears. Police officers arrive first. The house is lit. The front door is unlocked. They enter cautiously, hands on their holsters. The silence is oppressive, unnatural. On the second floor, they find Gary. The man is lying on the sofa by the fireplace. The television is still on. Some show. The hosts' voices sound cheerful, out of place. A gunshot wound to the head. Blood on the pillow, on the back of the sofa. By all indications, he was caught by surprise. He didn't even have time to turn around. Judging by the position of the body, he was shot from behind, suddenly. His hands were relaxed. The TV remote lay on the floor nearby. In the bathroom, they discover Wendy. She is lying on the tile floor. 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Blood has spread into a dark stain. But, against all odds, she is still alive. Her chest rises faintly. Her breathing is hoarse, intermittent. It was she who dialed the emergency number. How she found the strength to reach for the phone is unclear. Adrenaline, survival instinct. Her condition is critical. The woman only manages to utter her name, Wendy, before losing consciousness. She is rushed to the hospital. Sirens pierce the night silence of the lake. Neighbors come out onto their porches, watching. Doctors do not give optimistic prognoses. 2 severe injuries. While medics fight for Wendy's life, forensic experts examine the house. They photograph, measure, look for traces. 6 shell casings are found, shiny, brass, scattered across the second floor, presumably .22 caliber. Experts later confirm a pistol was used. A small caliber, but sufficient for a close-range killing. Doors are not forced open. Windows are intact. Locks are in order. Either the killer was known to the couple and was let in willingly, or he had his own key, or a third option. He entered the house earlier, during the day when the door was open. No signs of struggle. Nothing stolen. Wallets, jewelry, electronics, everything in its place. This is not a robbery. Investigators begin to comb the area. They interview neighbors. No one heard anything. Shots from a .22 caliber pistol are not loud, especially in a well-insulated house. Luckily, a popular bicycle path runs nearby. Surveillance cameras are installed there. City authorities placed them a couple of years ago after a series of car break-ins. 2021, the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. There are virtually no people on the streets. Everyone is staying home, afraid of getting infected. This plays into the hands of the investigation. Fewer people, easier to track suspicious figures. Detectives retrieve the recordings. They review the entire day, frame by frame, and they find something. The recording clearly shows a figure moving in the direction of the couple's house. The time of capture, 5:30 p.m., 3 hours before the emergency call. It is still light. The sun is just beginning to dip towards sunset. The person's identity is impossible to determine. A black hoodie with the hood pulled up almost to the bridge of the nose. The lower half of the face is covered by a white mask or bandana, hands in pockets, gaze directed downwards. Given the pandemic, this might not have aroused suspicion. Everyone wore masks, but the figure's demeanor betrays nervousness. The stranger walks along the bike path, looks around, walks again, looks around again, sharply, over the shoulder. Movements are tense, constrained. When he reaches Gary and Wendy's property, he freezes for a few seconds, stands motionless, as if aiming his gaze at the house or gathering his courage. Then he breaks into a run. He crouches to stay out of sight of the windows and disappears behind the hedge. The camera loses sight of him. Judging by the recordings, he lay in wait inside the house for several hours, waited until Erin and the children left, until the owners went upstairs and relaxed. Immediately after the ambulance call at 8:35 p.m., the same figure runs out of the house, moves quickly but without panic, disappears into the twilight, direction unknown. The only thing that can be established with certainty is that it is a man. His build, his gait give him away. One of the detectives notices another detail. He slightly drags his right leg. Barely noticeable, but distinctive. This nuance would later play a crucial role. The investigation holds a press conference. A detective steps up to the microphones. His face is tired, serious. He holds printouts of still frames from the surveillance cameras. The footage is shown to journalists. A figure in a hoodie and mask. The image quality is good, but the person is unrecognizable. The hood covers half the face, the mask the other half. The recordings are made public. They are hoping for witnesses who can identify the suspect. Maybe someone saw this figure elsewhere, or recognizes them by their gait or by their clothes. An interesting detail: no one else was harmed in this area. No burglaries, no other assaults, nothing. Throughout the entire summer and autumn, silence. This suggests that Gary and Wendy were specifically the perpetrator's target. The attack appeared targeted, planned. The killer knew where they were going, knew the layout of the house, knew when people would be there. Detectives decide to delve into the victim's past, looking for enemies, conflicts, debts. Something that would explain why someone wanted them dead. By this point, the married couple had been living in their lakeside home for about 20 years. Neighbors described them as pleasant but private people. They said hello, sometimes chatted about the weather, nothing more than that. They were business partners in real estate, successful. They bought houses, renovated them, resold them. They made good money. They loved to travel: Italy, France, Thailand. Photographs from their trips hung throughout the house. For a time, they lived in Hong Kong. This was in the 90s, when the real estate market there was booming. They caught the wave. They made serious money. Then they returned to the States. In 2000, they settled in California. Wendy chose the location. She grew up nearby, in a small suburban town. She had always dreamed of living on Lake Tahoe. She told friends, "It's the most beautiful place on earth." Now, her dream had come true. The couple was wealthy. Perhaps they attracted the attention of envious people. Or ill-wishers from the past. Detectives check their business contacts. looking for conflicts, threats, lawsuits. Nothing. No threats in correspondence, no harassment, no contentious emails or messages. The daughters also know nothing. Their parents never complained about problems. Close friends confirm the couple was calm, peaceful, not quarrelsome. They disliked conflicts. However, one detail comes to light. Gary wasn't always a kind old man. Sometimes he showed rudeness, especially when it came to his property. In 2018, an incident occurred. A fisherman set up on the shore next to their property. Apparently a public area, no prohibitions. But Gary came out and started shouting, demanding he leave. The man refused. Then Gary pushed him. A fight broke out. An older man, yet fighting like a young one. The fisherman sued. He obtained a restraining order against Gary. Gary had to keep a minimum distance of 100 meters from him. This fact would later surface in the case. The defense would try to use it to show the victim wasn't so innocent after all. Now the idol was shattered. Wendy barely survived the attack. She is in the intensive care unit. Her room is under round-the-clock guard. The woman suffered an extensive traumatic brain injury, 2 bullets to the head. The fact that she's alive at all is a medical miracle. Doctors shake their heads, not understanding how it's possible. She had to relearn everything. To speak, to hold a spoon, to walk. Every simple action became a trial. She cries from helplessness. She can't remember how to pronounce words. Her tongue doesn't obey her. Physiotherapists work with her every day, slowly, patiently. Police officers watch over her all this time. 2 are on duty in the hallway, working in shifts. They fear the perpetrator might return, to eliminate the only witness, to finish what they failed to do the first time. Investigators eagerly await Wendy's ability to speak, to tell them who it was, to describe them, to provide at least some lead. At first, it's impossible. She can't even utter simple words. She only mumbles, trying to explain something. Tears stream down her cheeks from frustration. Detectives continue to look for clues on their own, while she recovers. The killer left almost no traces. Shell casings, yes. Camera footage, yes. Nothing else. No fingerprints, no hair, no DNA at the crime scene. Professional work or just luck? Detectives begin to analyze the couple's life, trying to find a motive in their business relationships. Perhaps someone was offended by a deal, lost money, decided to take revenge? The direction proves to be a dead end. All partners are satisfied with the collaboration. All deals are clean. No shady schemes. By November 2021, the police search the homes of all relatives. The daughters agree voluntarily. Both want to help the investigation. They want to find whoever killed their father and maimed their mother. No valuable clues are found. The murder weapon is not found. Detectives focus on searching for a .22 caliber pistol. They check databases. Who purchased such a weapon in the county in recent years? The list is huge. Hundreds of names. They check each one. They question the owners. They ask to see the weapons. They conduct ballistic examinations. Nothing. None of the checked weapons match the shell casings from the crime scene. The investigation stalls. 8 months, no progress. Detectives work on other cases, but they don't close this one. It hangs. It weighs heavily. Every day, someone from the team returns to the folder, rereads testimonies, reviews videos. Maybe they missed something? During this period, Wendy recovers, slowly but surely. By winter, she can already speak in simple sentences. She recognizes her daughters. She remembers what happened. But she's less helpful than they hoped. February 2022. The situation changes, but not as investigators expected. The elder daughter, Adrian, organizes a press conference. Not an official one from the police, her own, at her home. She isn't going to sit idly by and wait for detectives to find something. Adrian comes out to the journalists. Her face is drawn, circles under her eyes. She's barely slept for months. Most of all, she's concerned about her mother's condition. Wendy is inconsolable. She cries every day, doesn't want to eat, says she sees no point in living anymore. Adrian fears her mother might do something to herself. Her daughter is convinced. Solving the case will help her mother cope. It will provide some closure, at least some meaning to this whole nightmare. At the press conference, Adrian reiterates the main facts. She recounts what is already known. But at the end, she makes a statement that draws attention. A reward, $150,000 in cash, to anyone who provides information leading to the perpetrator's arrest. This is serious money. The media picks up the news. The story makes national headlines. Videos of the masked figure are shown on all channels. By this point, Wendy can already speak fully. Physically, she has almost recovered, at least outwardly. She walks on her own, eats on her own, speaks almost normally, only sometimes confuses words. Psychologically, she is shattered. She can't sleep without sleeping pills, wakes up in a cold sweat, every rustle in the house, and she flinches. Detectives can finally question her. The interview takes place at Adrian's house. Wendy has moved in with her elder daughter. She's afraid to be alone. She's afraid to return to the lakeside house. The detective sits opposite her, turns on a voice recorder, speaks softly, cautiously, understands that the woman is traumatized. Wendy recounts her story. Her voice is quiet, broken. She often pauses, looks out the window, then continues. The attack happened when she dozed off. She and Gary were watching TV, some show. She doesn't remember which one. Her eyes were heavy. The day was long, tiring. Then, an explosion. A loud bang next to her ear. Pain. Sharp, blinding. She jumped up, not understanding what was happening. Blood ran down her face, warm, sticky. Instinctively, she ran to the bathroom. She didn't see the assailant. She didn't even turn around. She just ran. She locked herself in the bathroom. She tried to lock the door, but her hands wouldn't obey. A second bullet. Another bang. Again, pain. Then, nothing. Darkness. She woke up to the dog licking her face. Their old Labrador. He whined, nudged her with his nose. It was all over. Silence. The assailant was gone. She lay on the cold bathroom tiles, blood everywhere. The only thing she could do was reach for her phone, dial 911. She tried to speak, but her voice wouldn't work, only rasps. The detective listens, takes notes, then asks questions. Did you see the assailant? No. Did you hear his voice? No. Perhaps a smell? Cologne?
Cigarettes? No. I don't remember anything. How many assailants were there? One or several? I don't know. I think one. A month and a half in intensive care. Then long rehabilitation. Doctors, physical therapists, psychologists. Every day, a struggle. Even after that, the woman didn't remember anything new. Memory gaps remained. Her brain was protecting itself, erasing traumatic memories. Now Wendy lives in fear. She knows she's in danger. The criminal knows she survived, could come back, finish the job. The uncertainty weighs constantly. Who was it? Why? What for? She had no idea who could want them dead. They had no enemies. At least, that's what she thought. Investigators hoped the amnesia would pass, that her memory would return, that Wendy would remember some detail, a voice, a silhouette, anything. It didn't happen. A year after the attack, in June 2022, Wendy voluntarily ended her life. She took an overdose of sleeping pills, left a note, short, just a few lines. I can't do this anymore. Forgive me. I want to be with Gary. Her eldest daughter found her in the morning. Too late. According to Adrian, her mother simply couldn't cope with the loss. 45 years together, and suddenly you're alone. Husband murdered, life ruined, fear every night. It was too much. After Wendy's death, Erin and Adrian moved to a lakeside house. The young women inherited all their parents' assets: the house, the business, the accounts. $23 million in total. But money brought no relief. They continued to fight for justice. They wanted to find the killer. They wanted him to answer. Despite their efforts, there was no progress. For almost 2 years, the investigation stalled. Detectives were working on other cases. This case was growing cold. Only on April 21, 2023, did the county sheriff's office provide new details to the public. But even by this point, the criminal had not been caught. Law enforcement had only just found leads. The first real ones in the entire investigation. June 5, 2023, exactly 2 years after the murder. A symbolic date. Adrian went to the police with a statement. Shocking. She claimed that her younger sister Erin and her husband Dan were responsible for their parents' deaths, that they planned the murder, that they wanted to seize the inheritance. Erin Satafini was married to Dan Satafini, a fairly well-known name, a former Major League Baseball star. The man had built a career in the sport, played for several American teams, then played in Mexico, earned good money, was recognizable. In 2013, he definitively ended his career. After that, he founded a baseball academy for children. He also owned a bar, the Oak Tavern, a joint business with his wife, following the example of his in-laws. 2 sons were born during the marriage. The family appeared prosperous. A large house, cars, vacations. Now Adrian filed a lawsuit. It alleged Aaron and Dan manipulated their mother, drove her to suicide after failing to kill her the first time. And before her death, Wendy changed her will, disinheriting her younger daughter. According to the older sister, it was all about money. $23 million and shares in real estate. Aaron wanted to convince her mother to make her the sole heir, to remove her sister, to take everything. Then, when that didn't work, she tried to reinstate the original terms of the will. There, the inheritance was divided equally. In the end, Aaron received nothing. Everything went to Adrian. Adrian had a boyfriend at the time, with a criminal record for robberies. The police checked him first, but he had an airtight alibi. He was at work, dozens of witnesses. He was immediately ruled out. Detectives paid attention to the lawsuit. They studied it, dug deeper. The result was unexpected. 4 months later, on October 20, 2023, it wasn't Aaron who was arrested. 49-year-old Daniel Serafini was arrested.
And 33-year-old Samantha Scott. Samantha Scott. This figure was new to the case, but she had been known to everyone, to the deceased, to the daughters, to the grandchildren, for years. The arrest took place early in the morning. A tactical team burst into Dan's home in Winnemucca, Nevada. The man was sleeping. They woke him, read him his rights. He remained silent. His face was stone. Samantha was apprehended later, tracked down in Las Vegas. She was working at one of the hotels. When agents approached, she paled, but she didn't resist. The charges were serious. Murder, attempted murder, first-degree burglary. Daniel was also charged with child abuse. He was lying in wait at the relative's home along with his own sons. The children were there, in the car, waiting for their father, unaware of what he was doing inside. When the shots were fired, they may have heard them. This exposed them to psychological danger. Adrian was stunned. She had known Dan for years. Her parents treated him like their own son, helped him financially, supported him, gave him advice. And Aaron took the news differently, skeptically. She didn't believe it, continued to insist her husband was innocent. It was all a mistake, or a setup, or anything but the truth. Aaron believed the police had found a scapegoat, that public pressure had forced them to arrest someone, anyone, and they chose Dan. The sisters agreed on only one thing. Both were shocked that Samantha Scott had been arrested. The nanny, a family friend. No one expected it. Dan Serafini was known. Not a superstar, but known. A left-handed pitcher with good pitching speed. He played for several teams, the Montreal Expos, then the Seattle Mariners, then Mexico. His career developed well, until 2008. Then a scandal occurred. Steroids. Dan failed a doping test. A storm erupted. The team immediately terminated his contract. Other major league teams refused to sign him. His reputation crumbled in a matter of weeks. Over his career, he earned about $14 million. Not bad money. But he lost most of it in his divorce from his first wife.
She filed for divorce immediately after the scandal. She didn't want to be associated with a cheat. The court sided with her. Dan gave up half his fortune, plus alimony for his 2 sons from his first marriage. In 2012, he married a second time, to Erin, young, beautiful. She worked as an equestrian coach, earned little but loved her job. The couple settled in Reno, Nevada. They bought a huge house, 5 bedrooms, a swimming pool, a 3-car garage. Value over $1 million. Then Dan began investing. He opened a baseball academy, invested money in several startups. All of them failed. The academy wasn't making a profit, too many competitors. By 2015, he was bankrupt. All savings spent, $300,000 in debt. Creditors called every day. They threatened legal action.
To open a bar, he had to go to his wife's parents, ask for a loan. Humiliating, but there was no choice. Gary and Wendy gave him $240,000, not as a loan, as a gift. They loved their son-in-law. They wanted to help. The bar opened, the Oak Tavern. It was doing reasonably well, but it wasn't enough to cover all the debts. Dan got a second job, a gold mine, manual labor, hard work, especially for a former athlete, but the pay was good. Even that didn't help. Debts grew. His appetites remained the same. Dan was used to spending a lot. Restaurants, clothes, gadgets. He couldn't stop. Erin supported him through everything. She said that everything would work out, that they would cope together. But deep down, she probably understood they wouldn't cope. During this period, Dan changed. He became irritable, aggressive. Bar employees reported that the boss started lashing out at them. He shouted. Sometimes he pushed. This hadn't happened before. Erin saw what he was like and what he had become, but she continued to love him, or pretended to. The family continued their usual lifestyle, vacations, shopping, entertainment, as if they had plenty of money, even though they didn't. Adrian observed this from afar. She was bewildered. How could one live like that? Up to their ears in debt, but with a smile on their face? She suspected that her sister was involved in something bad. Erin defended her husband too adamantly. Samantha Scott appeared in the Serafini family's life several years ago. Young, attractive, blonde hair, blue eyes, smiling. She approached Erin for horseback riding lessons. She wanted to learn. Erin agreed, gave a few lessons. They became friends. It turned out that Samantha sometimes worked part-time as a nanny. She looked after friends' children. Erin offered her a job. They had 2 young sons. They needed help. Samantha agreed. She started coming over several times a week. Picked the children up from school, fed them, played with them, put them to bed. The children loved her. She was cheerful, kind, invented games, read fairy tales in different voices. When Samantha first arrived at the Serafini house, Daniel immediately noticed her. He lingered his gaze a little longer than necessary. Then he started finding excuses to talk, asked how she was doing, joked. He told her about his problems, how hard it was, debts, work, stress. He complained that he was unhappy in his marriage.
He said he didn't want more children. He already had 2 from his first marriage. That was enough. But Aaron insisted. 2 more were born. Now he felt trapped. He continued to live with his wife only for the sake of the children, but he planned to divorce as soon as they grew up. Samantha listened. She sympathized. Young, naive. She empathized with his difficult situation. She felt special because he trusted her. That's how the affair began. Secret. Meetings in hotels. Messages that were immediately deleted. Lies. When Samantha was apprehended, she denied everything. She said she didn't understand what they were talking about, that she was just a nanny, a family friend, nothing more. Initially, even her sisters didn't believe in her guilt. Adrian had known Samantha for years. She trusted her. Samantha regularly visited Wendy when she was recovering, supported her, brought flowers, sat beside her, held her hand. How could anyone suspect her? But her role was yet to be fully understood, and it turned out to be worse than anyone could imagine. The investigation reached its climax. The prosecution had been preparing evidence for months, building a timeline, collecting testimonies. Dan was to be the first to appear before the jury, Samantha later. Preliminary hearings took place in October 2023. The courtroom was packed with journalists, cameras, flashes. The case attracted national attention. The prosecutor stands. Explains how they managed to prove guilt. Evidence, witnesses, chronology. Witness testimonies played a major role. One of Dan's co-workers, a minor, identified him in the video recording. He recognized him by his gait. It was distinctive. Dan slightly dragged his right leg, an injury sustained over years of athletic career. Permanent. The worker said, "I immediately knew it was him. By the way he walks, it's impossible to mistake." Other witnesses were found. People who heard Dan spreading bad rumors about his father-in-law and mother-in-law. He said they were bad people, that they abused their grandchildren, beat them, starved them when the children stayed with them on weekends. No one believed it. Gary and Wendy were loving grandparents. Everyone knew that. But Dan repeated this story again and again, as if he was trying to convince himself. Several years before the murder, he was looking for a hitman. He approached several men. He said directly, "I need to get rid of 2 people. I'll pay $20,000. These men had trouble with the law. Dan thought they would agree, but all of them refused. Someone laughed. Someone advised him not to talk nonsense. Just a month before the murder, his mood changed. He stopped looking for an executor. Now he said, "I'll do it myself, with my own hands." No one contacted the police. Everyone thought he was joking or speaking in anger. Dan was always hot-tempered. He liked dark humor. No one took it seriously. A big mistake. The prosecutor reconstructed the timeline of events, showed a map, a timeline. June 4, 2021. Daniel and Samantha check into a hotel in Wellica, Nevada, a small town, less than a kilometer from the gold mine where Dan worked. They book a room for one night, register under their own names. Nothing suspicious. June 5. In the morning,
Their cars are captured by cameras in the mine area. Dan arrives at work, clocks in, works for several hours.
Then leaves. Says he feels unwell. Around 5 p.m., his car disappears from the parking lot. At 5:30 p.m., a figure in a hoodie appears on the recording near the lake house. Samantha initially claimed that she stayed at the hotel all day, waited for Dan. They wanted to spend time together, secretly from Aaron. Her story sounded plausible. Even mobile phone geolocation confirmed the phone was at the hotel. But Samantha made a mistake. The exact same Subaru as her car was spotted near the lake house, without license plates, less than an hour before the attack. Detectives checked the car's geolocation, not the phone's, but the car's. Modern cars transmit data to the manufacturer. Subaru did too. The data showed Samantha's car was near the crime scene at the time of the shooting. She lied. According to the investigation, she dropped Dan off, waited nearby, then picked him up after the murder. The defense strategy became obvious at the preliminary hearings.
The lawyer planned to convince the jury Wendy and Gary were cruel people, manipulators. They had oppressed their son-in-law for years, drove him to despair. As evidence, a 2018 restraining order, the story with the fisherman, showing that Gary was aggressive. The defense also planned to shift the blame to Adrian, claiming she accused her sister and brother-in-law to take all the inheritance. She had a troubled boyfriend. Maybe he was involved. But the boyfriend's alibi was ironclad. He was ruled out immediately. A serious battle lay ahead in the courtroom. After Dan, Samantha was to be tried. But in February 2025, everything changed.